Hey guys. Okay, so today, oh, my computer's shaking. Today we're going to talk about cause and effect. Okay, so we should all know what cause and effect is, right? Okay, so when you are reading a story or an article or anything, there can be cause and effects within a story. So your cause is what happens, okay? So if I'm walking down the street and I trip, okay, that's the cause. I walked down the street and I tripped. And then if I say I was walking down the street and I tripped and fell on my arm and broke my arm, that is the effect. So the effect is what happens because of the cause. Okay. So using our Frindle book that we've been reading, Frindle, we're going to look for some cause and effect. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you a cause and effect that I found in chapter 3. Then your assignment is going to be, you are going to get on Unified Classroom and you're going to do a discussion post and you're going to look for a cause and effect that you found in chapter 4. And then you're going to get onto Microsoft Teams and you're going to actually fill out a cause and effect chart from a cause and effect that you found in chapter 5. So we're looking for causes and effects that we find. I'm doing chapter 3, you're doing chapters 4 and 5. 4 will be in the discussion post, and 5, you're actually going to go into Microsoft Teams and you're going to fill out a chart. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now, okay? So here is, okay, so here's your actual assignment. So here's me reading chapter 3. Then this video will be here, down in here somewhere. It will be of me showing you how to do cause and effect for chapter 3. Then for this discussion right here, you're going to list one cause and effect from chapter 4. Then here's your assignment for Microsoft Teams. You're going to get onto Microsoft Teams and fill out a cause and effect chart. Now, when you look at this chart, I think this is it. Yeah, that was it. Oh, hold on, give me a second. When you look at this chart, you are going to see, when you actually see mine, you are going to see that there's going to be 2 boxes for the effect. And I'm going to tell you why in 1 second. Here we go, cause and effect. Okay, here we go. So here's our cause and effect chart. So you can see here that there's 1 cause box and there's 2 effects boxes. That is because even though you may have 1 cause, there could be multiple effects. So an example that I like to give is, think about a hurricane, okay? So a hurricane comes through and that's the cause. The cause is the hurricane, okay? A hurricane blew through our town. Then when you think about all of the bad things that happen after a hurricane, those are the effects. So let's say flooding and power outages and people's houses getting destroyed. Your car might float away, okay? All of those things are effects of a hurricane. So if I were to fill this out using that example, my cause, use my text boxes. Now this is just using that example that I just gave you, okay? So this is not what you're going to be typing, but I just want to show you. My cause would be a hurricane. Well, it's going to let me type. My cause would be a hurricane. Then I would have effects like my power might go out. Power out. And flooding. So do you see how this 1 cause can have multiple effects, okay? Now, to get these words in here, all I did was add a text box. So I went over here, I did insert and text box. And when you do that, I'll do it again, it will put a text box in and you can move it anywhere you want to on this page, okay? So I'm actually going to leave these here because I'm going to need them in a second. So when we're talking about Frindle, okay, That's where you're going to get your cause and effect examples from. Now, I read to you chapter 3. That was the video that was on there. So my cause and effect that I'm going to model for you is going to come from chapter 3. Chapter 3 was all about the question. Okay, it was all about Nick asking Mrs. Granger a question so that he could try to get out of homework, right? So on page 15, okay, on page 15, at the very top of the page, it says that, well, kind of starting at the bottom of 14, that's when he starts to put together this plan that he's going to ask her this question. So he's talking, like, or he's telling you how he's going to ask this question, right? So then at the top of 15, Mrs. Granger calls on Nick and says, "Yes, Nicholas?" And then Nicholas says, "Mrs. Granger, you have so many dictionaries in this room. Where did they all come from? Did they just get copied from other dictionaries? It sure is a big book." So boom, that was his question, okay? So that's going to be my cause. Nick asks Mrs. Granger a question to stall the homework assignment. G-N. Oh, that's not how you spell assignment. There we go. Teachers make mistakes too, guys. Okay. Now, I'm actually going to change this. Nick asked Miss Granger a question to stall or get out of the homework assignment, because he's not just trying to stall, which means like he's not trying to just delay her getting to the homework. He's trying to get out of the homework altogether, right? So he asked her this question that he thinks is going to take a lot of time. And then by the time she gets the question answered, there won't be any time for her to give the homework assignment. The bell will ring and class will be dismissed, okay? So that's going to be my cause. Now, after that, there are a couple of effects that I found when I read this section, okay? So it says, so he asked the question, and then if you keep reading, still on page 15, it says, several kids smiled and a few peeked at the clock, okay? So there's my first effect right there. So Nick asked this question, and because Nick asked this question, several kids smiled and some looked at the clock. Now, I know that that is effect because I know that that is an effect because if Nick didn't ask this question, then those kids, they wouldn't have smiled because she was getting ready to give them homework. They're not excited about that, okay? So those kids smiled because Nick asked this question, okay? So I know that that is one effect. Now, down here, there is another effect for Nick asking this question, and we all should know what that is. Nick got an extra homework assignment. Okay, so not only did Nick have to do the homework that Miss Granger assigned, but then he also had to do this report on dictionaries. So if he had never asked that question, he wouldn't have had to do that report. So here's my cause, and here's my two effects for that one cause. So this is how you're going to fill yours out. Only when you fill out your chart, you're going to be finding a cause and effect that you found in chapter 5. Now, once you have filled out your chart, okay, I want you to put where you found this cause and effect, okay, just so I know where I can look back just to see where you found your cause and effect. So I would put on mine page 15. That's where I found my cause and effect, okay? I found it on page 15. Now, the next part of this assignment that I want you to do is I want you to come down here. I want you to add another text box, which I've already done right here. And I want you to make a sentence showing me your cause and effect, okay? Because like on page 15, this cause and this effect is throughout several paragraphs. Okay, it's not just one sentence that says he did this. It's through some paragraphs. So I want you to take your cause and your effect. You may only have one effect, and that's fine. But if you have more than one, then definitely fill out both of these. If you only have one, then you can leave this bottom one blank, okay? But I want you to take your cause and your effect, and I want you to make a sentence. My sentence could be, because, whoops, yep, there we go. Because Nick asked Mrs. Granger a question at the end of class, I'm going to, oh no. Hold on, we're trying to connect. Oh no, disconnected.